Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 6 of the Young People's Money Podcast. I am your host, Leanna Chow. With this podcast, I aim to normalize having open and honest conversations about money amongst young people, which is important because at the end of the day, it's how our world goes round. Today, our guest is one of my coworkers from my day job and one of my close friends, Alejandra. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for joining. Let us get right into it. So, question number one, how did you grow up and what was your family's relationship with money like?
So, I grew up my first half of my life up till I was like 9 or 10. I grew up in my home country, and that was very different from the second half of my upbringing, which was here in the United States, which, from 9, 10 till now, just been living my life here. Growing up over there, we had our whole family. So we had our grandparents. A lot of my aunts are still back there. So most of my family is back home. And it was very interesting because back at home, or like back in my home country, I went to private school. I never really have any memory of struggling money wise. We were
Mhm.
pretty well off in my home country. My grandparents always had like they always lived in like a really big house. Just like from what I remember, they lived in three different houses, and
Oh,
they were
wow.
all so beautiful. Yeah, with extra rooms and everything. Like they were so well off at the time.
Hmm.
And the reason, so then my mom split off with my dad, which is why we came to this country. And then here my mom was a single mom, and so it was a huge, like, not just culture shock but also like shock in, like, I guess, financial status.
Yeah.
And so we went from, having all this comfort to really just not having any comfort at all. Everything was new, everything was different. And, with money, it's not like any different. So here, after my mom, remarried and everything, we never really, like, we always lived, or, with my parents. It was very like paycheck to paycheck kind of life, tight budgeting, the kind of like luxuries we would have are more like, oh, like, we're going to go out on the weekend to like a nice restaurant kind of thing. And that was always like the thing. The second half of like my real, upbringing with my family and money wise, it's always been like tight budgeting, and it's never enough money, and, very like struggling with money kind of thing.
Yeah. Do you remember what that transition was like?
Yeah, it was a hard transition. At the time, I don't think I processed a lot of it. I think the whole, processing and catching up on what really happened there came out in the aftermath of everything. But it was very different. I honestly just never really, life just kept going and everything just like happened so fast. I never really stopped to really think about it until I was at least 16.
Hmm.
um, but the shock was there. It definitely was very different, and it was really hard to get used to
Yeah,
in
like
many ways.
what is it that happened at 16? Like was it because I had a similar experience in which like when I grew up and I was a younger kid, I didn't really notice like my family's level of, financial comfort or lack thereof. And then I didn't really think about that until I was like a teenager. Cause then I saw like all a bunch of my friends like going on vacations and like having these huge houses. And like, I don't know if it was like similar for you or not.
Yeah, yeah, no, definitely, actually. So yeah, when I was 16, I was in high school. It was my junior year, and I think that's when I started getting invited more on like summer trips where I went to school in like kind of it's like a wealthy area, but it's like a farmland kind of wealthy area where like the
Mm-hmm.
demographic there was like a very small town vibe where everyone knew everyone, and either you were part of like the people who owned like the vineyards and the fields, or you were, like children of like farmers, or, so it was a huge divide economically speaking, just in the high school in general. Um, but yeah, I remember, like, I had friends that they would go. We used to have this thing in my high school called ski week, and which was the equivalent of spring break, but
Ski
it was
week.
so that ski week, yeah, so people could go snowboarding for a week on the best, like, week of the year to go board.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and it's like I mean, snowboarding is extremely expensive.
Oh yeah.
Super just unattainable to like the average person, in my opinion. And so just yeah, little things like that. And I started to notice that, like one of like my really close friends at the time, her dad was a horse trainer, and they just had all this property and stables and all these horses and everything. And
That's
it's
so
just
cool.
yeah, and it was cool. But then, I started like becoming more self-aware, and I'm like, oh, well, why don't we have this? Like, why
Mhm.
don't, in my 16-year-old mentality, it's just kind of like that's when I really like became a lot more self-aware of like where I stood in that demographic, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. Oh my God, Ski Week is like honestly the whitest thing I've ever heard in my life.
No, it really is. It really is. Yeah, it was very non-diverse kind of school.
Did you go to like a predominantly white school?
Yes, absolutely.
Got it. And then also curious question, were you a horse
Mhm.
girl?
No, no, I was not. No. No, nothing wrong with it. I have, friends who, did a lot of that, and no shame, no harm. But yeah, no, it was never, again, horses are expensive. So
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
I couldn't afford to be a horse girl, even if I wanted to, but it never really piqued my interest. So it's okay.
Yeah, I remember I was trying to join the equestrian team when I first went to college. And the thing is, like, I had never really done any sports before. Honestly, if a horse like threw me off its back, I probably like would be dead. But I remember not joining because the weekly lessons were $50, and like that doesn't really seem that much now, considering like we're adults now, we get big girl paychecks from our big girl jobs, but like at the time it was like I'm a college student, I can't afford to be spending $50 a week on lessons like that, on something so optional, and so it's definitely like out of reach for the average person.
Definitely, yeah. No, I 100% agree with you on that. So yeah.
Yeah. So do you have a good relationship with money now? Rank it from 1 to 10.
Oof. I'd say my relationship with money is probably at a 7 now,
Mm-hmm.
as of recently. It's definitely something I've had to work with. I started working at a very young age, and I used to be very not stingy with my money, but unless it had an absolute like necessary like, purpose, I would not like to spend my money. And it was, yeah, my relationship with money has definitely changed over time, but I'd give myself a 7.
Yeah, okay. So you were like very frugal with money then. Do you like at what age did you start working?
16.
16, and why? Why did you get a job at 16?
Um, so I had really strict parents for one, and I think that that was one of like the only kind of like social outings I was allowed to do. And it was like one of those things where it's like, well, I'm doing something productive. I'm making money. You know what I mean? So that was like, how could they say no?
Oh my god, so you literally got a job so you could go out, go outside.
Definitely, yeah. And, that's one thing. The other reason was more towards the self-awareness, once I realized like, oh yeah, like, we don't fit the snowboarding family demographic.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, okay, well, what can I do about it? And it was actually kind of funny how I got my first job. It was like one of those like weird coincidences. So my parents really liked going to this like Mexican artisanal ice cream place.
Oh,
And
cute.
yeah, and my mom and I were Salvadorian, and the owner's wife is also Salvadorian, but he's Mexican, or
Mm-hmm.
vice versa. It was a situation like that, and basically he like got to know my family because we were regulars.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, one day he was like, oh, you like, that in the conversation it just came up that, I'm like 16. He's like, oh, like you can work now, and like, are you looking for work? And I'm like, you know what, like maybe I am.
Got it. Nice. That was your first job. And then, yeah, you like literally started working like as soon as you could. And so, like, you've had like more than a
Yeah.
decade now of work experience, and like, the value of money like is
It
ingrained in your
really
mind.
is. Really.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay. Well, question number 2, what is or are your source or sources of income? What lands in your bank account monthly?
So my main source of income is my big girl job that I have right now. What lands in my bank account monthly? I'd say about 4,000 a month.
Mhm. How much do you make hourly? Just, so people
Yeah,
have an idea of
yeah,
like
yeah,
what
yeah.
$4,000 a month looks like.
Oh, definitely, yeah. So I the 4,000 is with the 35 an hour budget.
What is it that you do for people that don't know?
Oh yeah. So that's kind of a tough question to answer. But essentially on paper I'm a design engineer. I'm a project lead and we do a lot of just quality assurance and data collection, data clean work. And yeah, I'd say that's kind of a general gist of like what the job encompasses. But yeah,
Yeah, we call it asset data engineering.
there you go.
Yeah, and it's a lot of Excel sheets, right?
A lot of Excel, yes.
Yeah, and you're great at it. I honestly could not survive at my job without you. So, thank you for
Oh,
doing such a good job.
thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, okay. So question number 3, how many
Yeah.
hours do you work a week and do you like your job?
I work about 40 hours. And I say about because there's definitely weeks. It's 40 hours. Let's short answer, 40 hours. And do I like my job? Yes, I do. So ultimately, I really like the problem solving aspect of this job. At the end, it's more about like critical thinking and problem solving, and we definitely do a lot of that here. And there's a lot of aspects I do like about my job. The
Yeah.
comfort, the benefits, it's very nice. And I know not every job is as flexible as this one in a lot of ways. So yeah, it's pretty enjoyable generally speaking.
Yeah, I had a similar answer where like, in terms of corporate job 9 to 5, like this is like one of the best case scenarios in that it's like so flexible and it's remote and it's not like as demanding as like some other similar positions would be, but there are certain aspects that are not fun as well.
Definitely. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of, I mean, yeah, the perfect job doesn't exist, right? And, so I don't want to say it's complacency, but, it's not the worst out there. It could be worse, but, we can always strive for more and better.
Indeed.
Yeah.
um okay. Question number 4, you get your paycheck. What do you do? How do you spend your money? What's the breakdown between necessities, leisure, and savings? I want to know like how much you spend on rent, groceries, etc., etc.
Rent, I pay about 1,100. I only pay utilities once every 3 months, but if it were to be broken down on like a monthly basis, it's about 100 a month for utilities. I gave myself a $400 budget for groceries because realistically, that is what it ends up coming out to. Whether
Mhm.
it's like, you make your like weekend trip and then on a Wednesday you're like, oh, well, I need tomatoes or like avocados, and that ends up adding up. So
Yeah.
I'd say I spend about 200 in gas. And I say 200 because of like how how high the gas prices are.
Yeah.
But I actually don't spend too much money on gas since we do work from home. I don't really have to be driving on a regular basis. I only really drive to like the gym or the grocery store. And on the weekends, I make a 60-mile trip once a week.
Yeah, to visit
Um,
home, right?
yeah, to visit back home, which is about an hour away. And then I put 400 on like my weekend spending. And I gave myself 400 because every weekend on average, I know that I spend at least 100 a weekend on eating out.
Mhm.
And that's like whether it's with like friends or family or whatever, I know I end up spending on average about 100.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, same.
that's yeah. And then so my mom has like a lot of health problems and everything, and I try to help out as much as I can, but on average I gave myself a $400 dollar like amount that I give to my parents. That is just something I do to help out. And 200 on nails and hair on average because
You got to take care of yourself.
Definitely, it's the self-care budget.
It is. There has to be a self-care budget for sure.
Absolutely. And then from there, I'm typically left with about like 1,000 a month that
Hmm.
I can choose to either, save, given that I don't have any parking tickets or I don't have any upcoming car problems, of course. Just those unexpected large purchases, or expenses.
Hmm.
But yeah, I am typically left with about 1,000 a month.
So going back to the necessities and rent specifically,
Mhm.
can you do a little breakdown of or like explanation of your current living situations, like how many roommates? Because I think living in the Bay Area, like everyone is naturally curious as
Oh
to
yeah.
what other people are paying and where they're living, and if it's just like completely unaffordable for like everyone else as well, which it totally is.
Yeah, no, and I actually I'm really glad you brought that up. Because yeah, a lot of people just tell me that they don't know how I do it, and or they assume I make like a ton of money, which is not true. you know. So my current living situation is I live in a house that rents out a bunch of rooms. It's kind of like a dorm living situation in a way, but everyone, like all my roommates are, they have some kind of like, adult job. A lot of them travel. So it's a 10-bedroom house.
Oh
I
wow.
have 6 roommates. I have 5 that live upstairs, including myself. And then downstairs, I think as of right now, 3. So that's actually 7. Sorry, I have 7
There are
roommates.
three empty rooms.
Yes.
Oh my god, that's still crazy that you have to pay like 1,000 for a 10-bedroom house, and you're just like splitting it with like that much other people though.
Oh, yeah, no, definitely.
It is San Francisco.
It is San Francisco, yeah. And it's funny, even the area where I live, it is outer Mission, which that's not too personal. It's general enough, but it makes sense because within the Bay Area, in San Francisco, depending on like the area where you live, like of course you're gonna live in your financial district. I've seen 1-bedroom apartments the size of my room on square footage
Hmm.
that go for 3 to 4 thousand monthly. So
No.
yes, and it's like the whole apartment, not even just like a room. So
Yeah.
there's definitely a huge wide range of different living situations that people like have here. But I will say I think our lowest in cost just for this house alone, which I know that it's a very common thing you see in San Francisco, like houses being turned into like shared spaces and stuff. I think the lowest I've seen is 800 for a room.
Oh my god. Well, I guess 800 is like kind of normal, but
Yeah.
like
And that's for like a little box, like I
yeah.
think it's like a 60 by 60.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Oh my god.
mhm.
It's like slowly turning into New York. Like there are like closets being rented out for like 1,200.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Oh god, I hate that. Hate that so much. Like I don't like San Francisco. It's scary. There are so many car break-ins, and it's stinky, and it's too expensive, and it's cold.
Yeah, no, it is commonly referred as, what is it, sewer city?
Sewer City, is it?
I think a lot of people have called it that.
Oh god. I mean, how do you feel about it? I mean, you obviously must have some, endearment for the city if you're
Yeah,
living there.
of course. So, I went to school here and
Mhm.
I have some family that lives here. Well, back at home, I will also include like in El Salvador, like we come from the city of El Salvador or San
Mhm.
Salvador. So, we're kind of already like accustomed to the like negative aspects of like living in a city or what it would
Mm.
be like. So what's beautiful about it is the diversity. You have such a wide like range of people out here. You get to really like, and coming from an area where you only really have like Mexican or white people, you don't really get to meet other like cultures. You don't get to you don't have that much exposure of different like cultures and races and just people and backgrounds of any kind. So
Yeah.
the city is definitely beautiful in that sense. You're never really alone, which can be very scary, but also comforting at the same time. um, one of the biggest things I will say is the fact that I can just go to a concert and just get a quick Uber. I don't have to worry about staying in a hotel or a long distance driving or,
Hmm.
a lot of venues are, within Oakland or San Francisco, and I really like going to concerts. So it's
Hmm.
definitely something that I found worthwhile, at least, for a few years. So.
Yeah, definitely. So like what is your how do you feel about like sharing a kitchen with that many people? And like obviously like, you guys share a huge common area as well. I mean, is it big or like is it a little cramped sometimes?
I have never felt like, at least here, I've never felt like it's like crowded or, not enough space. So we do have a kitchen upstairs and downstairs.
Oh, good.
We have four refrigerators. And even then, I have a personal fridge.
Okay, that's not too bad then, because I was envisioning that you guys all shared one fridge, and I was like,
Oh,
I can barely, like, I have barely enough room for myself in my fridge, so I can't
oh,
imagine like doing that for
gotcha.
everybody. But I'm glad you guys don't do that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, no. We have definitely enough. Yeah, we have a microwave upstairs and one downstairs. So downstairs we have a living room kind of area. We have a kitchen. We have like couch space. Upstairs we have like a similar situation, except the kitchen's bigger than the living room space. And so
Hmm.
there is, and not a lot of people that I live with cook. And so I don't know if it's just my unique situation or just like the way that city life goes or what, but I don't run into people. Like, you only really run into people if you want to, I feel like.
What? Okay, that sounds good. Yeah, because like when you say you're living with like seven other people, I'm envisioning like four people in the kitchen at once trying to do their thing, and it's just like very overwhelming
Oh
to
no,
imagine.
no. And like everyone has such different schedules
Hmm.
too. And a lot of people that like, live here, at least in this, oh God, I'm sharing on their behalf, I suppose. But so they travel a lot. So it's kind of always like, yes, seven people live here, but there aren't always seven people like actually
Here, yeah.
here physically. Yeah. More like a space to come back to for some. So
Yeah, I love that. That
yeah.
sounds great.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, and then you don't have to like be scared if you like hear a noise in the middle of the night.
No, yes. Actually, I've had that conversation with my roommates.
Yeah,
A lot of them have mentioned that this is the safest they have ever felt, like as when it comes to a living situation.
that's freaking awesome. I love
Yeah,
that.
yeah. No, it's cool. Because at least for me, at first, it was kind of the opposite of that.
Hmm.
So,
Why?
because my room has one of the walls, it's all windows.
Oh
And
gosh.
yeah, I'm like right next to the entrance. And so for me, I always got paranoid that like people would look out like into my window, or like, that if
Yeah.
there were to ever be a break-in, I'd be the one to go first. But it's just me being paranoid.
Did you did you say you live upstairs or downstairs?
Upstairs. So I'm not
Upstairs.
even at I'm not even at like floor level.
No, I would be paranoid too. Like, oh my god, I'm facing the street. Like, I am in danger.
I
Yeah.
am exposed.
Okay, and question number 5. Do you have a budget? And I think you already kind of broke that down already.
Yeah, yeah. It's very
Yeah.
loose, but
Yeah. Do you like limit yourself like in terms of necessities like it's pretty common to set aside a specific amount for like rent and like groceries because like how much it's gonna be roughly every month, but in terms of like spending and like buying shit that you like concert tickets and like just like clothes and like makeup, like do you have a limit on that for yourself?
yeah. Oh, absolutely. So I shop at either Ulta or Sephora once every either 2 or 3 months.
Hmm.
But every time I step in, I end up I end up spending minimum $200. That's a
Every
minimum.
time.
every time. I don't some I am such a material girl when it comes to like makeup and beauty products. Like,
Oh, girl, I love it.
oh yeah, like
Self-care
moisturizers.
budget.
Oh yeah, self-care budget for sure. I have certain expenses that I only give myself or I allow myself to have once every 6 months or like once every 3 months. And like makeup and stuff. That's something I do purchase like or I allow myself to go into that store even like once every 2, 3 months. So
Yeah.
of
And then one thing I want to ask you about is,
course.
it's something new that you started lately is going to the gym,
Mm,
and you hired a trainer as
yes.
well. And I want to know how much that costs, and like if you're, reallocating your money to account for that, or if you're just like, fuck it, let's get into it. I don't care what happens.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I actually didn't even include that in my budget. That is so
Oh,
funny. So with her, I meet twice a week, and I drop $76 a week, actually.
okay. So, and twice a week, $76 a week.
No, once a week.
Oh, once a week, $76 a
Yeah.
week.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's not too bad. Like, okay, after you got a trainer, have you like noticed any hit on your finances, or like is the big girl paycheck like just like covering that and just like making sure that you don't you can keep your head above the water and everything like that?
Yeah, no. So when I first, because it was a bit of an impulsive thing to do, but I
A good
figured
impulsive though. Like it was a
oh,
good
definitely.
thing.
Oh, absolutely. And I definitely agree. I think it's one of the best things I've done for myself in a while, if I'm being honest. So one of the things I guess I didn't realize about myself, and back to that relationship with money, is I will give my money away almost, it feels like, to,
Mhm.
for others. And it's like, oh yeah, like what's a nice dinner, like for everyone to enjoy or like the people I love the most to enjoy kind of thing. But like when
Mhm.
it comes to like my own personal investment, it was something I had like zero of, aside from
Yeah.
like self care and everything, which is something that's just been like part of my personality like my whole life. But yeah, definitely. I've always been like, oh, well, the gym's too expensive. I'll just like, join Planet Fitness because it's so cheap. And, uh,
Planet
that's
Fitness
a
is so bad. I hate
that's
Planet
a whole
Fitness.
different can of worms. But yeah, so if it costs me like not having as much like, money for concert tickets or money for eating out, which I have done a lot less of. So now I don't eat out as much. So maybe
Mhm.
that budget is a little outdated, I guess you could say. But yeah, like I don't eat out as much, and a lot of the money that I don't use there goes towards my gym now. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Um, and then at a certain point, your trainer was making you eat like 1,200 calories a day to help with your weight loss goals.
Mhm.
And I was like, oh my God, she must be so hungry because 1,200 is like nothing. Oh my gosh.
It really is. Yeah. And I was
Uh,
very hungry.
yeah. And did you notice that your grocery bill went down at least?
You know what? It did. Yes.
Okay, good.
And it's funny because it became a whole, you would think it's like, oh, like, when you speak of like health, you think of diets, you think of salads and everything. And it ended up not being that at all. And so, like, it really was a change of lifestyle where I don't find myself wanting to go to the bars because it's like, oh, it's alcohol. It's just gonna like, stunt my progress. And alcohol was, especially in the city for a beer, it's like minimum $10 for a cocktail.
Ah,
It's 15. So it's like, and I don't even think that's too exaggerated. Maybe you can find like those like niche like dive bars where it'll be a little cheaper, like $7, $6, you could argue.
mm-hmm.
But even then, no, just going out and drinking, it's so expensive. And especially once you're like a drink in, you're like, oh well, what's my budget? You just,
Yeah.
give a big tip.
Yeah. Yeah, I get it.
So yeah, and it's definitely something I don't do anymore because now I spend all my time at the gym.
Yeah. Yeah, so at least it was more of a trade-off. At least it wasn't like adding that expense on top of, all your regular expenses. It's kind of a trade-off,
It
from
really was. Yeah,
eating out and partying a lot and then going and just like spending all that money on the gym instead.
pretty much. Yeah, that's really what happened.
I love that for you. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, I do too, personally.
So question number 6, have you ever regretted spending money on something?
You know, when you go to a restaurant and like the food is just not worth it,
Mm-hmm.
that's like one of the things like I sometimes do regret spending money on. That and like back then when I used to like, go out more, overspending on alcohol was definitely something I regretted because they would only make me feel bad. And, it was, again, it's so expensive. So
Mm-hmm.
it's just one of those things. Another thing, so I, another thing I definitely regret spending money on is, I sometimes start new projects out of like pure impulse. I guess the
Me
personal
too.
trainer was kind of one of those things. But for a while, I really got into rock hounding, and I wanted to buy like a rock tumbler, which is
Rock
basically,
pounding.
yeah. So rock
Uh-huh.
hounding, it's basically
Hounding.
where, yeah, or hunting. It's interchangeable, but
Oh, okay.
basically you go out in nature and you look for crystals, like, or minerals or
That's such a cute
rocks.
hobby. I love that. What?
Yeah. Yeah, and when I was back at home, I there's a lot more like hiking areas. So I used to do that a lot. And during the pandemic, it's just something I put a lot of energy into. So that was one thing. And then I wanted to get into metal detecting. So I bought a metal detector for my birthday. I guess it got stolen.
It got stolen?
Yeah. So a few months back, I had my metal detector in my trunk because you never know when you're gonna metal detect. But yeah, it got stolen from my trunk.
How did they know it was in there?
They didn't. I think it was one of those things where I must have left the trunk not closed like properly.
Oh, damn. That
And
sucks
so
ass.
yeah, and that was the one thing of value that I really had. They took some dirty laundry.
Oh,
They
what?
They took my metal detector, a bag of socks that I had been gifted,
Ew.
and they were new. They were not
Oh.
used. They were brand new, which is so
Okay.
sad.
Oh my god. That sucks. I think like people who break into cars are like the scummiest people ever. Like, oh my god, why would you do that shit?
Well, yeah, and like it's like it's not only for like the material and the price of everything, but also like you just lose that sense of safety. You feel exposed in a way because a boundary has been broken.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my god. Well, so no metal detecting after that got stolen.
Yeah, no, I'm never buying one again. I didn't. It wasn't even good. Like it wouldn't detect
No.
anything out there.
Oh man. Oh my god. But did you ever get that rock tumbler?
So no, but what I would go do is I'd go to a lot of like gem shows, and
Mm.
I don't know if you've ever been to one of those, but they, oh man, it's like going to like a like a market, but there's a lot of like salespeople, and they really like know how to just
Make you buy rocks.
yes. And so I got really, really into buying crystals and rocks and minerals and everything. And not so much like I'm not too big on the esoteric aspect and like the energies and all that, but I do love like rocks is
The
like,
look.
it definitely like the aesthetic, staple piece, like the mineral component. And I'm done. That's as far as
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Have you seen Breaking Bad?
yeah.
So I'm thinking about when Hank Hank was really obsessed with rocks for that brief period of time when he was recovering from his injury.
Yes. No, that's exactly how it is.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So the tumbler is like you find a scraggly normal rock in the wild and then you tumble it and then it just like comes out all smooth, right?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
And
That
like,
is pretty cool.
yeah, it's expensive too. Now they
Mhm.
have it's a lot more accessible now. They have like a kids version, National Geographic, like you can get it for
Cool.
like $60. But
It's not too late. It's time to realize your rock tumbling dreams.
oh god, no, the thing is loud. And to actually tumble it, it's kind of, yeah, that's a whole other story, but there's a lot of like negative like sides to buying a rock tumbler that, it just makes it not worth spending the money. And I'm glad I didn't at the time. So
Yeah, I mean, besides like, I'm curious now, like, besides the noise and the expense, like, what else is bad about it?
yeah, so the medium that you use for the tumbling, it's not something you could just drain out into like
Oh,
soil. Yeah, so which some people do, and there's like just ways that you have to dispose of the that stuff, and um
got it.
yeah, it's a whole process.
For some reason, my dumbass thought it was just water, and I was like, what? But it's like a chemical substance that you have to use.
It's not a chemical, it's more like I think it's I don't know if it's pronounced granite or granite, but I
Hmm.
think it's granite. But basically it's just like very small sand that the rock is just constantly being like rotated like against. It's the
Mm,
effect of like, like when you're at the beach or the ocean and like the sand is just like against the rocks and the with the
got
movement of
it.
the water. So it's just kind of like making mimicking that effect inside a cylinder. So it's as it's spinning, it's just rubbing against like the different like grits. So and they call it grits. So you have like coarse rocks that you put it in there with, and
Hmm.
because this whole thing of like hardness and most skill plays into it. It's a very nerd hobby.
What? Oh my god. Wait, isn't it just like rocks then? Like, can't you just like put it outside? I'm so confused.
Well, no, 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 because that like sand sometimes like for the polishing, for example, it's
Uh huh.
like a clay, right? Or
Uh
like a
huh.
polishing like solution. I guess there it becomes more chemical, but
Uh
I'm just oversimplifying like what it,
huh.
it is. There it's a little more than that. But yeah, the
Got it.
disposal aspect of it can be
It's too
bad for the
much.
environment.
Got it. Yeah, we care about the environment here. We are environmental girlies.
Yes.
Okay. Well, number 7, what was
Mhm.
the biggest thing you spent money on lately? And what was the biggest thing you've ever spent money on?
Yeah, so lately, what's the biggest thing I've spent money on lately? I have been really trying not to spend money. So I
Hmm.
can't say I've spent that much money on anything in particular.
You go, girl. Nice.
Yeah, so I've been pretty good about it, but I think the last big expense I did, well, two of them, they were more experiences. So one of them was my last birthday. So my birthday last year around May,
Hmm.
I dropped $800 for a hot air balloon.
It cost $800.
Was it 8 or 4? Actually, no, no, no. That's a lie. It was 400 total, so it was
Mm,
200 per person, so it ended up
got
being
it.
400. Yeah. But then the after like the balloon ride, we do like a lunch and there were souvenirs and everything. So there were like extra added expenses there. But yeah, no, it wasn't 800. I'm sorry. It was 400.
Oh, okay. That's actually not too bad, especially if lunch is included and like, it's like a whole experience.
Oh no, it's not included. That's what I'm saying. So like
Oh, never mind.
after the 400, it's still like added like,
Shit.
the lunch and I, I think you get a complimentary mimosa, like a glass of mimosa.
Oh, okay. Oh my god. Yeah, I remember you going on that hot air balloon ride and sending me pictures. Like, you looked scared.
It was yeah, and it was worth it. I think
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, cuz I'm not like a big like adrenaline person. So it was the right amount of like peace, but also like exploring.
Yeah. I love that.
Hmm. And the biggest thing I've ever spent money on, the biggest one I can think of is this like my second car that I bought on my own, which was 4,500, and it was a
Nice.
2004 Mini Cooper.
Okay. And you don't have that anymore, right?
No, I do not.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What was it that made you sell it again? Because you love
Um,
that car.
I did. It had like a gasket problem at one point, and gasket problems are very like hard to fix. Just anything with a leak when it comes to cars. So
Mm-hmm.
it was the logical decision to just say bye. you know,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um, aren't you trying to buy roller skates soon?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
And you want the fancy ones. You want the Moxies.
Yes. I think even though like those will come out like I think after everything I'm gonna buy, it will be like 200, 250. So
Okay.
you know what though? I will say I did buy Bad Bunny tickets last year. I think I used my tax return money for the Bad Bunny ticket. It was an experience and I don't regret it one bit.
Well, I love that for you. I know you love concerts, so you gotta do things that you enjoy.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, question number 8. Do you wish you made more? What would you do with the extra if so?
I definitely do aspire to make more. Like I've mentioned, I really want to focus this year into like saving. So everything that's extra, I really want to work towards like actually just having a significant amount of savings.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Nice. And then what is the savings for? Is it just like a feeling of security, or like, if you just suddenly decide to drop everything and like move to a different country, you would be able to?
Oh yeah, no, yeah. So the savings is more to give myself a cushion. So right now I'm living very comfortably and I am it is a bit of a what is the word? Um Not a luxury, but I'm definitely grateful that I am, able to have such a loose budget. I know there's people that definitely live like very strongly paycheck to paycheck and they I mean, I yeah, but it's tight budgeting, right? They have to stick to a very, very tight budget. And for me, mine is pretty loose. So, I what I want is just to live on a tighter budget, save money, and because I am kind of looking into moving, I would
Mhm.
like to find like a one bedroom apartment or just find something that's more like just me.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, the bit of the cushion is essentially to feel more supported um, to finding a new place to live,
Yeah.
a bigger space to live.
Okay, so you do want to like have a bit more of your own like privacy and space and all that.
Yeah, and I'm not like in a rush for it or
Mhm.
anything, but yeah, it definitely would be nice. And even with that being said, it is something I've been thinking a lot about since I've been considering like moving back home and the cost of living or just like finding a one bedroom apartment or like a one bedroom like complex kind of thing like a or duplex, sorry, duplex.
Mhm.
It's definitely like more available out there than I believe it's here like I want it to be like reasonable as well, so I'm willing to take my time to like find the right fit.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely. And like a one bedroom in San Francisco would be like what, like $4,000 a month?
about 3,000
Uh huh.
to 2,500 to 3,000 monthly, yeah.
Oh
And that's
gosh.
not including the cost of parking. That's not including the cost, like, a lot, especially a lot of like luxury apartments out here in the financial district. You have extra costs for utilities and this like garbage
Mhm.
services. You have to pay extra for if you want to like take advantage of like the gym
Mhm.
area that they usually have.
Damn, you have to
Um,
pay extra for the gym.
you have to pay extra for the gym, like to use their gym. And sometimes you have to, well, no, in most cases, the more common one is like you have to pay extra to like reserve a parking space. So like even to live in that complex, you're not guaranteed to have a parking space.
Oh, I hate that. That's
Hmm.
horrible.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I have a friend who she pays, I think, 250 a month for a parking space. And that's
Mhm.
the cheapest I've ever heard anyone pay for like
Two
a set parking space in the city.
250. Oh
A
my god.
month, yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's like a lot. That's like almost a car payment, pretty much.
It kind of is, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Oh my god.
mhm.
Um, question number 9.
Yeah.
You win $5 million. What would you do with it?
I found this question kind of funny. So, the way that I thought about it, okay, so the first thing I would probably do if I were to win $5 million is try to find a good, trustworthy financial advisor. Yeah, that's the first thing, right? Um,
Yeah.
find a financial advisor that would help me figure out like the best way to like split the money into like categories, like how much can I, like put into savings, investing. But if, generally when that question is asked, I the first thing, people think of is like, what would I spend my money on? Like a ridiculous amount of money on. And
Yeah.
for me, that would be probably buy a house so that my parents wouldn't have to worry about rent anymore. I
Mm-hmm.
think just having that piece that they don't have to worry about that, which is like, their current biggest bill, it would just
Mm-hmm.
give me such a sense of peace that I don't have
Yeah.
to worry about like their sense of security or their sense of stability in a way that's just worth any sports car or anything else. Like, so yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and then do you think that that would eat up the $5 million?
Um, so I know, right? With the cost of like housing these days, I wouldn't want to buy them like a fancy house, just a house. I'll work for them.
Just a regular one. Like
You could find like a one or like a $500,000 home or a 1 million. That then I would have like what, like 3 million left because one of
yeah.
those millions would probably go off to taxes.
Yeah, shit. Okay, don't think about taxes. Think about if you get to keep the entire 5 million.
Okay, the entire 5 million. 1 million towards the house, 4 million towards the financial advisor.
You would give it to the financial advisor to do whatever they want with it.
Not like so much like that, but
Yeah.
you
Just like
know,
ask them what to do with it.
exactly. But yeah, I
Yeah.
guess ultimately it would be to have a better sense of like how I can invest that money and make passive income out of it. Like I would definitely take I would try to take the most advantage of like that
Damn, that is like a really smart answer. Like
money.
yeah, like a financial advisor. That's solid. I love it.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. You're so responsible. What the heck? I was like, I'm just gonna buy like two houses. I don't give a fuck.
Well, I just, I think the biggest thing I ever like look for in life is stability. It's the thing
Mm.
I value the most. So
That is what you get out of a 9 to 5 job as well.
sad, but yes.
Sad but true. Yes. Okay. What is your next financial goal?
Yeah. So my next financial goal, I'll break it down into three. So I have a short-term financial goal, and as I mentioned, it's literally just to like learn to save, have a more, set budget. And also, I'm learning how to make the most out of a credit card. So I've always been really scared to open a card.
Yeah.
And I've recently opened one. And so right now I'm just doing a lot of research on how to maximize my credit and how to, just make the best out of owning a credit card. So that's my short term one. That's my current short term goal. Midterm is to get out of that like paycheck to paycheck mindset. And again, I think that having that like savings will definitely help with that. That's
Mm-hmm.
why I consider it more of a midterm. And then long term, I think I would like to, really look into more into like investing and like passive income and like all of that. But definitely, I think that's something that can wait. It's not something I'm
Mm-hmm.
very like urged to learn about just yet. I'm definitely have a lot of like stuff to learn, before getting there. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
What was it about like credit cards that scared you so much, and why did it take so long for you to get one? Because you're like 28 this year, right?
I'm turned 28. Yeah. So
28.
yeah. So um, what? Let's see.
Yeah, because
One.
a lot of people when they first turn, I mean, when you first turn 18, you're able to get a credit card, and like a lot of people jump on that because they're like, ooh, credit. But then 18-year-olds kind of like don't really know shit most of the time.
Yeah.
And so like, what was it that made you wait 10 years
All right. Yeah.
before you did it?
So one of the things is that growing up, so even before I was 16, I grew up, one of my aunts, she owned a restaurant, and I saw how, having bad credit affected her lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
Not to overshare on on her behalf, but just seeing how my parents and relatives, they treated money and they treated credit cards, and there was always that for example, for like with college, how you can get a loan,
Mm-hmm.
but then those loans have interests, and you know um I guess growing up, I never really had like a very like secure set amount of income come in.
Hmm.
Especially again, my first job being like more of a tip-based job. And then when I was at the university or like even in college, like I was only working like 3 days a week. So I never like that, my income and my money was never like very set or secure. Like I didn't know, if it would change for like upcoming years. And so I just I never trusted myself. But I realized I was being like overly cautious and and it's really not that bad. I've always been that way though. Even with driving and a lot of things, I always like tried it out later in life and I realized it wasn't that bad. I think
Yeah.
I was kind of scared of taxes too, if I'm not if I'm being honest. I was like, oh my God, am I gonna have a brain for it? And it's like the most like, I don't know, intuitive thing. So
It wasn't until like kind of recently that I realized we're really similar in that we're both so neurotic. 'Cause like I was also really fucking terrified about like driving, and like taxes. And like, oh my God. It's just like I guess I'm just like so caught up in my head about like all of it that I just don't like realize when like someone is so similar. Because it's like it's all like a mental thing, but like on the outside you don't really show it. Like, I might seem confident on the outside, but inside I'm like anxious, super super
oh,
anxious about like everything.
I am too. I don't know how much it shows. I feel like for me, it's
It
definitely.
doesn't.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it doesn't
Oh
show.
my God, thank you. That's such a compliment because
Yeah.
yeah, it's chaos in here.
Yeah, same in my brain.
Oh my gosh, love it.
Okay. What were we talking about? Oh yeah, credit cards. Yeah, so you got the Chase, you got a credit card with Chase, right?
Yeah,
Which one is it?
the sapphire.
How did you pick the card? I mean, was it like random, or did you like do research into which areas it gave you like most cash back? Like, did that play a
Yeah,
factor?
yeah. So if I'm not mistaken, I believe it gives you cash back on gas and groceries, something
Mm-hmm.
along those lines. And I was like checking the statement to see like what that exactly like, because groceries could look like so many different things. So I was just I'm still kind of learning the realms of like what qualifies as groceries and what qualifies, gas is a little more straightforward, right? You can
Mm-hmm.
only really, get gas like, you know, at a gas station. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I guess like the benefits and also like the influence. I have, aside from you, I have two other friends who have also, you know, they've vouched for that card in specific. And so I figured if I'm gonna like jump in and get a card, I should, go for the one that has at least like my inner circle
The
has like.
most reviews.
So yeah, exactly. So that's kind of how I went in that decision. A bit of an impulse as well. I will
No,
say.
at least you did the research though about like the cash back, because there are some credit cards that are just like not worth it, and then or like maybe they're not like inherently bad cards, but they just don't fit with your lifestyle. But in terms of gas and groceries, like I feel like those are really good areas to focus on for cashback
Mhm.
cards. Question number 11: what do you allow yourself to spend a lot of money on?
Good food.
Yeah,
Oh,
good food.
I have such an expensive taste in food.
Do you? Oh
You
God.
would not believe. I love good cheese. I love fine
Jeez.
dining. Yeah, it's bad. I definitely have a good I think I have a good sense of like discipline. Like if I know that, I can't go too crazy on the spending, but I do like if I have the money, I will allow myself like there's this place, it's a Brazilian steakhouse, and I believe it ends up being like around 80 per person just for like the experience. And that's not like including drinks or dessert.
Hmm.
Like for me, it's absolutely worth it because you get to try like all these like cuts of meat and you get to try like such good food and it's like such good quality. To me, it's worth it.
It's $80 for all the meat.
It's $80 for all the meat. Yep.
That sounds that sounds good.
Yeah. But I know that there's definitely like people who wouldn't do that. Definitely.
Yeah.
Or would find it way out of like pocket, or
Hell,
would
I would do
rather
that.
really.
Yeah, I do it.
Oh, nice. Okay, good. Good to know.
We should
I actually,
go.
we should. What are we doing? But that, and I would say like the second thing is like I really like learning, and I know that sounds cliche, but I think something I definitely do allow myself to spend a lot of money on is education.
Mhm.
Um,
What have you like spent recently in the category of that?
yeah, so the most recent purchase I've made is actually the workbook for the engineering and training exam. It came out to like over $100.
Oh my god. You know, this girl, you love engineering. And I'm like, oh my god, you go, girl. Like, snaps, claps. Like, you are girl boss. Like, I went into engineering hating engineering, and like, you're like one of the the only people I know who like actually like genuinely likes this field. I love it. I love it for you.
It's
We need female engineers, and you're doing it.
Thank you. Appreciate it. It's definitely love hate. I wouldn't say I'm like perfect in any way, like in that sense. Like,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, no, I mean, and education can mean so many different things. So, that's definitely like the more straightforward one. But again, like the personal training, I think it is a form of education because, I got to learn about like body movement and like physical conditioning. And so to me, that was a form of education. And that's why it's also like worthwhile for me to
Yeah.
invest in it. Looking at it in that sense. Pursuing higher education, I know it's not for everyone. I basically, after my financial aid and everything, most of the stuff was out of pocket and or my investments were out of pocket. So
Mm-hmm.
no debt here.
Hell yeah.
Far.
You paid for school all by
I
yourself?
did. I did, yeah.
Holy shit. And
Yeah.
you worked during school, right?
Yes, I
To pay
did.
for it.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
and how much did it cost? Cuz which school did you go to?
San Francisco State. So it was
Mhm.
significantly cheaper than a lot that I know. I know that their tuition is a little low. Like I think it's like about a grand or two lower than like, for example, San Jose State, which is a little
Oh,
pricier.
wow.
Just
Okay.
because the cost of living it's so high here.
Yeah.
I think they did it to compensate for that. Something along those lines. I don't even really remember. Don't quote me on that, but
Got it.
but yeah, the tuition, yeah, it comes out like about for 3 to 4 thousand per semester. I
Oh.
was lucky enough to have like scholarships and
Yeah.
financial aid and everything. And like I will say, I was like, definitely lucky, and I am very grateful for this. But like, back home, I still lived with my parents when I was in college, and then like when I was at the university, I actually got like my housing from my aunt.
Oh, that's
So,
awesome.
so the rent was like dirt cheap compared to like anything out here. So, that is one huge like leverage I had, and that is what made it possible for me to not have debt. Otherwise, I probably would have ended up having to take out a loan. So,
Yeah, that is freaking awesome. I
yeah.
don't know many people who like paid their own way through school. And like I guess it, because it was your own money, I bet it hurt a little more
Oh,
to
absolutely.
and like, in classes you paid extra attention.
Yeah. I wasn't like a straight A student either. Don't get me wrong, but I definitely did try.
Which did you ever fail a class?
I did actually.
Which one?
Well, it wasn't an F, but it was a D plus.
Uh-huh.
It was my first semester transferring in. It was actually thermodynamics, which
Oh
is
shit, thermo.
my favorite subject, and it was
What?
the one I was looking forward to the most. Yeah, because the reason I started out with chemistry and I ended up really liking the reaction rate aspects, so that's why I went to physics and then led to engineering. And so thermodynamics was like the thing I was looking forward to the most. And then I just ended up with this professor who was impossible. I didn't know how people were passing. Turns out people had the old exam, the like prior like semester exam. Oh God,
What?
this might be confident. Maybe I'm like ratting out a bunch of people.
Basically you got ass fucked for being academically like you had integrity. Like you got ass fucked for that, having integrity.
Honestly, yeah, no, and the professor, like, I mean, I hate to blame the professor, but he really, it's just, I've never heard like a single good thing from. him or her. I'll keep
No, I mean,
their
it's
identity.
it is totally fine to blame professors because I had my fair share of shitty professors and it really makes a huge, huge fucking difference. Like, oh my God, like in crazy, crazy.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, no, so then, it's funny though. So after getting a D plus in that class, I literally almost considered quitting engineering. But then instead,
Oh
I'm like, I know
God.
it drove me there because I had never like failed a class. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, learning how to fail was, I think, one of the most important things I learned in college.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Engineering is like a lot of
Yeah.
failing, in and
Oh,
of
yeah.
itself. It's like, designing something and then it not working and then making iterations and over again. So, you know
Absolutely.
what? You learned by doing.
Yeah, I agree.
Man. But
Yeah.
That D plus kind of hurts
Oh,
because
yeah.
it's like, damn, you like tried, but it just like wasn't enough for a C minus. Like,
Yeah, no, definitely.
so
And you know what?
close.
Side note, but I took it very personal. So what I did was I retook the class the next semester with a different professor.
Hmm.
I ended up getting the highest final test score. Like
That's my
the
girl.
Yeah, and that's how I ended up with a TA job. So he's like, "Oh, like you did the best on the finals, so I want to offer you this TA position." And then that's how I ended up being like a TA for the rest of the semesters in my university life.
Hell yeah. That's my
Yeah,
girl.
thank you.
Nice.
From failing. So that all stemmed from a failure. Let me just
Yeah. Oh my gosh. That would be the perfect answer to the interview question. Name a time where you failed and what did you learn from it and what did you get from it?
Oh my God, you're so right. I'm gonna start
Yeah.
using that one.
No, you should because I ask people that when I interview at our job
Mhm.
and sometimes people have like really bad answers and sometimes people have really good ones.
Huh.
And that's a really good one.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll keep that in mind. I appreciate the feedback.
Yeah. So what are you really cheap with on the flip side?
Okay. So I am actually really cheap with clothes. When it comes to buying
Okay.
clothes, I will not spend more than $20 on a shirt. Oh, call me. I am so cheap when it comes to like purchasing shoes or clothes or even furniture.
Hmm.
Because one, I believe, like, I am a firm believer that things could definitely be found. I hate fast fashion. I really, really hate fast fashion.
Hmm.
But usually fast fashion is the cheaper route. I try to, if I am gonna purchase from a like a company or a brand that is like more along the lines of fast fashion, I try to be conscious about it. I try not to buy it for like the fashion trend or like the fad or whatever you want to call it. But like, like, am I going to use this long term? Like, am I going to use this shirt to like its full extent?
Yeah.
And how many outfits can I pair it with, I guess? And so, um, that's one thing I do. The other is I really like thrifting and not in the trendy way, but like actual thrifting, Um,
What is the difference between actual thrifting and trendy thrifting?
yeah. So, that Macklemore song, no,
Yeah.
um, pocket tags, especially out here in San Francisco, for example, we have on Haight Street, it's basically just a strip full of like thrift stores.
Hmm.
And there's like a Goodwill out there, but there's like a lot of like more like one is called like the Wasteland, and it's just like they only accept like very like high end like Doc
Oh.
Martens like leather pants kind of thing, like fall
Hmm.
leather, like it's very more like we're bougie thrifty store. And even with Goodwill they have like a bougie Goodwill now where like they only take in like Gucci and Dior and like brand names. So
Got it. Hmm.
mhm, yeah,
So that's trendy thrifting.
that's trendy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just like at that point, like, is it even worth it? Because the prices are going to be fucking like insane. Like, obviously not as much as like retail, but like, what's the point of thrifting? It's to get clothes that are cheap, you
Yeah,
know?
and I hate it.
Um,
I'm with
mhm,
you. Like I hate it too.
mhm.
Because it does end up costing almost about the same. You're
Mhm.
absolutely right on that. It becomes not worth it, and that's why I say it's just trendy. People just
Mhm.
do it because it's like the cool thing to do right now. And I will say this, so So it's a little embarrassing, but you know what? Screw it. I like sharing this. I would say 80% of the furniture I own, I have found on the curbside. Like one time,
What?
yeah, like I
That's not embarrassing at all. That's a flex. What the fuck?
it's I have really good luck with finding furniture. There's also like Facebook groups. There's this one for San Francisco. It's called Buy Nothing San Francisco.
I know about those buy
Mm-hmm.
nothings. Yeah.
And it's like people who just like live such a like comfortable, like people with money, like money, like
Hmm.
they'll just be like, yeah, there's like IKEA furniture that was just laying in the garage, like that basically like pristine and untouched. Like we're just gonna have it out
Yeah.
there, like pick it up. Like and I will absolutely go pick it up.
I love that. I actually recently just discovered Buy Nothing Facebook pages. And like I didn't know this was a thing. I mean, I knew about like Facebook Marketplace where like people would like list their old stuff. And it would obviously be like a lot cheaper than, going to like a store. Because, if somebody's just like trying to get rid of their shit, it's like going to be a lot cheaper. Like I have my couch is $75. And I tell that to anyone who will listen. Because it was like this really rich guy in Dublin.
Mhm.
And like it was like his parents' couch and they just wanted to like get rid of it. And it's this like really gorgeous, like white, like tufted, like real wood couch. And I am
It's very
like,
nice.
thank you. And I'm like, $75? What the fuck? Yeah, let me go rent a U-Haul and pick this shit up. But yeah, apparently there are buy nothing pages, which, for the people who don't know, it's just like Facebook Marketplace, but free. And the rule is you can't sell anything.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So free shit. Like people are giving away free shit all the time.
And it's good shit.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is not embarrassing at all that, all your furniture is like cheap and or from that page because, like flex. Like
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. No. So yeah, and then, I like the idea of things being repurposed. And even buying from Amazon and everything, it ends up costing like $60 for a shelf that's like so it's manufactured so tacky, and
mhm.
you're just not really like getting your money's worth at all. So I just don't really find it worthwhile in any way,
Mhm.
really. Because I've tried when I first moved on my own, I bought like two pieces of furniture, and I like, they look so nice online, and I'm like, oh, it's such a good deal, such a good price. And I ordered them, and then when they got shipped in, it's like they're so just I think one of them broke within like 3 months. Like,
No.
so
Yeah. Amazon is not really great for furniture.
no, don't do it.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
Yeah, I would say furniture and clothes and shoes, just things like that, that could definitely like be purchased in a more conscientious way. Definitely very
Mhm.
cheap about.
Yeah, I love that. And like honestly, like the word cheap like implies that like you go for like the lower quality stuff, but no, you're like actually getting higher quality stuff for like, cheaper cuz you're like actually looking from the community instead of like from online and they're like just shipping in a piece from China.
Yeah, yeah, no, definitely. But yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So question number 13, what would you do with your life if money was not an issue?
Funny you asked that. No, if money wasn't an issue, I would definitely focus on just getting as hot as I possibly could, and like opening a bakery and just like having like a little shop where I could just like sell my pastries, sell coffee, sell plants, and like just live like the cottage core life
Oh my god,
with
wait. Coffee and pastries and plants in one place? Like I feel like we have a business idea. Like hello?
it would be such a comfort place. Like that's ideally like what I would envision it to be. Like I would want it to have like a lot of like, natural lighting, a lot of like,
Mhm.
like people can come and just feel like a nice little plant, feel nurtured, have a coffee,
Yeah.
have a pastry.
Oh my god, I love that. Alejandra's pastries, plants, and coffee.
Yeah, PPC.
PBC.
Uh,
So you would get as hot as possible and then you would open a little store and then live your cottagecore dreams.
absolutely. Yeah.
I love that. It's so funny that you say get as hot as possible because that is like literally what the fuck I would do, and that's like literally what I'm trying to do this year. Like I literally like said those words like verbatim. I'm like, I'm trying to get as hot as possible this year. You know, I got my Invisalign in. I'm like doing my fitness journey. Like everything's working out.
Yeah, no. And okay, so I mentioned that because I guess for me it's like something I've recently like discovered about myself. And by recently, maybe not so recent, but it's like a recent theme in my life
Mm-hmm.
where I was like in school and I was just like investing so much. And again, like I feel like I am a very giving person. And
Mm-hmm.
so that investing in myself, when I say like getting hot and everything, I guess it would be like investing in myself where it comes to like my health, my appearance, and everything. So I mean, ultimately, yeah, it's getting hot.
Yes,
but but yeah, definitely.
I love it.
Mhm.
What do you wish you could tell your younger self about money?
um I would probably tell her that as much as it is important, it's not everything. And it does actually tie back in with the whole getting hot thing.
Mm-hmm.
I used to like, when I was a kid, I used to say, oh my God, like I just want to be like a secretary so I could wear like heels to work and like, have an office job where I can like look pretty and like, I'm gonna adopt kids and have cats. Like as a as a child, that was my dream life. Okay. Oh
I
my
love that.
God. But then once you like grow up and you go through like the whole school system and you choose like, oh, or am I going to go to college or not, and everything, you start
Mm-hmm.
realizing how hard it really is. I mean, some people maybe it's a little less challenging, but for me, my personal experience, like college was difficult, like just
Yeah.
balancing life in college, and I was like in and out of relationships at the time, so there was so much I feel like I sacrificed for my education. Nights I never went out, just long nights in the library, years that I could have spent like at like learning about the gym and learning about like, physical wellness, where instead I would just literally be sitting all day studying. So just things
Yeah.
like that. I think I would have, if I would have, if I could go back and do it all over again, I would have found a better balance and
Mm-hmm.
not been so extreme about that. So just because I
Yeah.
put the value of money so high up there, and just having that like financial stability. So yeah, if I could go back and tell myself something about money, that it's important, but it's not everything.
Yeah, I mean, I love that answer because I definitely relate to taking education so seriously because at the end of the day, like what was at stake was our livelihood and like the ability to make money after we graduated. And like in high school, I think about this a lot recently. Like I took it so serious, but it was never that serious. Like it was never that serious. Like I stayed up late. I sacrificed my sleep. I sacrificed my health. Like I didn't go. I didn't eat lunch like for most of the days, like in the school year, like around like 11th, 12th grade, and I like was so skinny. And the reason I didn't eat lunch was because club meetings would always be during lunch, and like I needed to like do my extracurriculars. Like I remember I was in like 4 or 5 clubs, and like it was just like too much, and they would give us 30 minutes to eat lunch, and like I just like would not eat lunch because there was only time to like go to these stupid meetings. And so I sacrificed health, sleep, like I didn't have time to like hang out with my friends. I didn't have time to like do anything. I was just studying, and I was like, you know what, like did I really need to do that much? Because at the end of the day, I got rejected from all the Ivy Leagues, and like Berkeley and LA both rejected me.
Yeah, it's funny. I had a very similar experience too,
Yeah.
kind of. So for me, it was like I was also like in clubs, and I was like in leadership. I was like a club president, and
Mm-hmm.
I was just super involved. And I also like didn't have like, I invested so much into school and just like, but at the time, so like I have DACA, and
Mm-hmm.
it's worth mentioning.
Mm-hmm.
I have DACA, so I'm under here like with a work permit, and I know that there's like so many people out there who can relate, and it's such a taboo thing, and like for what? But so getting into it, like I honestly at the time didn't even like think I would go to college. Like for me, it was just like a thing of like I know that I didn't even like realize that it was a possibility for me until like my sophomore year. And
Mm-hmm.
like as you know, like if you don't start strong like from your freshman year, it's really hard to like you know, really like catch up. A really
Yeah.
sophomore year is like where you really prepare. And so there were a lot of things that I had like disadvantages in just because I didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
And my future was so uncertain. And so, but once I figured out how to use DACA and how it worked and everything, because even my first semester, like at community college, like, and that's also why I never really like stressed to go to a university. I
Mm-hmm.
tried and everything, but then yeah, I came to realize that like my legal status was definitely a huge block. And
Mm-hmm.
so that made me kind of think like, okay, I'll just go in for a short tech like career. That way, like it's not too expensive. I'll use my scholarship money and that'll be fine. But then yeah, no, once I was in it, I said screw it. And that's also why it took me so long to like graduate. I didn't graduate till I was 25.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like there was just like all these like factors of just like the not knowing.
Yeah, that sounds really fucking stressful. And it's like because of the whole, you being on DACA thing, like it, created some obstacles for you at work too.
Oh yeah.
And that was just like so stupid. And I hated that for you. And I hated that for us because we needed you.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So, we live and we learn. And, just like I think every like professional out there who's under DACA, it's such like a taboo thing. Like we don't talk about it, but we are there. Like I know so many
Mm-hmm.
professionals like where they are just like so successful and you would never even like it, consider that like they were going through that kind of hardship,
Mm-hmm.
which is insane.
Yeah.
Like in surgeons, like
Yeah.
people doing all these like amazing things. And so it's just
Essential things.
essential. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Side note, but
Not at all. I think it's totally relevant.
uh,
Well, thank you, Alejandra, for coming onto the podcast. This was so much fun, and I'm so glad I got to know you a bit better and like talk about all this stuff with you. And thanks for being so vulnerable too.
of course, thank you. No, I think what you're doing is really great. It's for a great cause, and I am so honored to be part of it. Thank you for
Thank
inviting me.
you. Aw, that's sweet.
Of course.
I'm like, you gave me a compliment. I don't know what to do.
It's okay. I feel the same way. I'm like, oh.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks everyone for listening and tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next one. Bye.
Bye.